Finding good free PC games isn't as easy as it sounds anymore. There are literally thousands of free-to-play PC games out there on the internet, but only a handful of them are actually worth playing and downloading. So that is exactly why I made this video for you. So instead of giving you a massive random list of free games, I organized best free PC games by their genre. So today we got like 13 different categories to go through, and I'm gonna recommend you some of the best, top tier, most popular free-to-play PC games you should be playing right now in 2026 and also moving forward into the next year. So whether you're looking for a competitive game, a relaxing simulator game, MMORPGs, adventure games, survival games, horror games, or even a simple casual game to jump in with your friends on a party night, I got some of the best recommendations. And if you're new here guys, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It really helps support the channel, so let's get started. Alright, I'm gonna go through every single one of these categories, starting with action-adventure games, and easily one of the strongest free-to-play genres right now. Alright, starting with one of the biggest and one of the most popular games you can jump in right now, and that is Where Winds Meet. It's a huge open-world martial art adventure style of a game set in a beautiful ancient China. It's already a very popular game and already got a couple of massive expansion after the launch. No doubt one of the best free options on the market. Alright, if you're someone who into more like anime aesthetic, anime-like characters and flashy combat, there are so many great free-to-play adventure games on the market, and some of the recently released popular games like Neverness to Everness, which recently come out on Steam as well. It got like an urban open world setting with supernatural elements and very stylish action combat. And also games like Zenless Zone Zero, which is kind of similar or preferred single-player experiences, and also games like 7 Deadly Sins Origin, bringing that popular anime franchise into a large open world adventure if you're into that. And also a couple of popular gacha style games, the games like Wuthering Waves become more of the popular choice among the players, and also the ever popular Genshin Impact, one of the most successful free-to-play games ever made. But if you want to move away from the anime aesthetic and looking for something more relaxing, casual and something different, we got games like Sky Children of Light, which focus more on exploration, social interaction and relaxing adventure experience. Other great option on the category is games like Ark Knight Enfield, which is another very recently launched title, which mixes real-time combat with strategic gameplay, and also games like Infinity Nikki, a unique open world adventure exploration, more like a fashion style of game, very casual and very cozy. If you don't look for that anime cute aesthetic, there are a couple of very popular games that you can still play. The games like Game of Thrones King's Road, which is a massive action RPG set in the famous Game of Thrones universe, and also games like Throne and Liberty, another very popular action adventure game. But remember, it might not be available in every single region, which is something to keep in mind. Alright, moving on, next up we have Battle Royale games, arguably the most popular free-to-play game genre out there. And obviously if you want the classic Battle Royale experience, you really can't go wrong with the biggest names on the market. The big three, I would say, the Fortnite, Apex and PUBG. And each one of a different style, you know. Fortnite got their unique building mechanic, PUBG got that realistic gunplay, and Apex Legends is known for its fast-paced, hero-based combat. And for people who are looking for more military style experience, we got games like Call of Duty Warzone and also one of my favorite, Battlefield RedSec, which bring large-scale battles with modern weapons, vehicles, tanks, explosions, with a bit of a more realistic approach. Both games are great options and also very, very popular. Fallout 84 is another interesting choice, especially after its first-person update, which completely changed the way the game feels compared to its original third-person style. And if you have a low-end PC without a graphic card, there are a couple of great options available. Games like Bloodstrike, which is very similar to Call of Duty Warzone, but everything is packed into this tiny package that can actually run on a low-end integrated graphics. And also games like Combat Master, which comes with a dedicated Battle Royale mode, another lightweight shooter similar to Bloodstrike, run extremely well on low-end systems. And if you're looking for something more casual and simple, Super Animal Royale offers that 2D top-down cartoon-style battle royale, which is completely different from the games that I already mentioned. So there are so many different style of games that you can actually choose, and everything here is completely free to play. Simply go ahead and download them on Steam and also on Epic Games Store. Alright, moving on to survival games, especially open world, more survival crafting style of a games. It's obviously another very popular genre. It's been growing rapidly over the past year or so with plenty of new releases and some major updates. And obviously one of the biggest names right now is Once Human, which recently received a massive update and continues to be one of the most recommended free-to-play survival games on PC. And the game is about to launch this month on consoles as well with full cross-play support. Another game that recently made a strong comeback is a game called Starzone, which was previously known as StarCraft X. And the game received a complete overhaul, bringing new life to this post-apocalyptic survival experience. It's a fun game to play with friends and also a little bit more hardcore kind of experience with some extraction shooter elements. And if you're looking for something a bit more hardcore and something well established, we got games like Will to Live Online and Stay Out. Both offer survival gameplay inspired by Stalker series, where scavenging, exploration and staying alive are just as important as combat. And these two games are not that easy to get into as a beginner, which is something to keep in mind. And one of the most notable new free-to-play addition to this genre is a game called Prologue Go Way Back. It delivers that very realistic, hardcore solo survival experience. You have to navigate, explore and survive against this harsh weather. Highly recommended, especially if you're looking for something new to play. And for those of you playing on older PCs and low-end laptops, Unturned still one of the best free survival games around, very popular on Steam. And also games like Mark, which remains a really fun co-op game to play with friends, thanks to its very fun roguelike gameplay mixed with survival and crafting. Another easy game to run on Intel HD graphics. And if you're after something a little more simple and traditional, The Wasteland Survival is another new game that recently came out, another solid option to check out. Alright, next up we are moving on to one of the biggest and arguably the most popular game genre out there, and that is first-person shooter games, the genre that I personally spend most of my time playing. And if you're after the most popular competitive shooters, you really can't go wrong with any of these games. The games like Counter-Strike 2, Valorant, Overwatch, even games like Destiny, these are very popular, highly recommended titles. And if Battle Royale is more of your thing, we got games like Apex Legends, PUBG, Call of Duty Warzone, even some new releases like Battlefield Red Sec, which are still among the biggest names out there. And alongside that, we got some of the most popular, fastest growing shooters right now, including games like The Finals, which is known for its highly competitive, incredibly smooth gameplay alongside destructible environments, and also games like Arena Breakout Infinite, which brings more slower, more tactical extraction shooter experience into the free-to-play market. Another very popular one is obviously Delta Force, offering that large-scale military combat, the Battlefield style experience, also with a 3-player extraction mode, plus a full single-player co-op campaign, all that you can jump in without spending a single dollar. And other than these popular ones, there are plenty of other great shooters that worth checking out in 2026, and especially games like Enlisted, which is one of the most popular World War II military style shooters you can play, recently got a massive update and kind of cut down its grindy progression significantly, so pretty good time to jump in and check it out. Plus games like Halo Infinite, which I think recently got its final content update, so there is not much going on with it, but still pretty relevant in 2026 with its iconic Halo gameplay that we all love. Also, I want to briefly mention about the Rainbow Six Siege X Early Access, which is kind of like the free-to-play, more like a demo version of the game that you can jump in and try it out. Kind of different from the usual 5v5 competitive mode, but still a great entry point, especially if you're someone who never played Rainbow Six Siege before. And if you're on older low-end PC, we already talked about games like Bloodstrike and Combat Masters, very popular games. But other than that, we got games like World War Legion, which is pretty similar to Combat Masters, but with a World War II theme. If you're looking for a bit more tactical, we got games like Polygon, another very underrated indie first-person shooter on Steam. Battle Teams 2 is another very underrated one with plenty of fun multiplayer game modes. And finally some new additions into the genre, the games like Codename Kyoto, which is a co-op zombie survival shooter which I really enjoyed recently, and also some of the recently released ones like Sudden Attack 0 Point, which bringing back that classic fast-paced arcade style gameplay into a modern day market. Alright, if first-person shooter games aren't really your thing, you would rather see your character while playing, then third-person shooters have plenty to offer as well. Starting with Fortnite, no introduction needed, one of the biggest battle royales on the market. And if you're into more popular competitive style games, we got Marvel Rivals. The game is holding on to a very steady concurrent play count on Steam at the moment, and it's becoming a fan favorite title for people who enjoy fast-paced, hero-based combat. And also we have Warframe, another very popular title, still going very strong after more than 10 years on the market, known for its fluid movement, flashy combat, and excellent co-op play with your friends. And some of the newer additions into the market include games like World of Tank Hit, which bring a fresh take on this large-scale armored warfare, and also games like The Division Resurgence, which expands on Ubisoft's favorite looter shooter series into a free-to-play experience for the very first time. Other than that, we also got some cool stuff that worth checking out in 2026. The games like Strinova, which mixes anime-inspired visuals with third-person shooting. The games like Caliber focus more on tactical squad-based gameplay for both multiplayer and also for co-op. Off the Grid is another relatively popular third-person sci-fi shooter with battle royale and extraction modes. We also have games like Mecha Break, which let you pilot powerful futuristic mechs in these large-scale multiplayer battles. And finally, we have Arcade Geddon, which is a very underrated co-op shooter that is well worth trying out if you're looking for something a little more casual and fun to play with your friends. Alright, moving on to horror games or survival horror games. Some people absolutely love playing horror games, and at the same time, you got people like me who rarely play horror games. But if you enjoy fighting through hordes of monsters with your friends or just trying to survive against other players, there are some great free-to-play options you can try out in 2026. Alright, starting with one of the new releases, we got Codename Cure 2, which is a game that I recently covered on my channel. It's a fully free-to-play co-op zombie survival shooter that feels a lot like Left 4 Dead or World War Z, making it a great choice if you enjoy team-based survival action. And also we got games like SCP Secret Laboratory, still remain as one of the most popular horror survival games on Steam. It's a round-based multiplayer game where you have to choose different roles and different objectives each round, so it's very popular and can be extremely fun if you jump in with your friends. And talking about multiplayer stuff, we got games like Project Playtime, which brings that asymmetric gameplay inspired from the Poppy Playtime universe. Another fun multiplayer game to jump in with your friend is a game called DC2, which mixes horror elements with some social deduction mechanics as you and other players trying to figure out who they can actually trust. Dead Frontier 2 is another solid option in 2026. The game combined more like survival horror with MMO elements in this zombie infested world. And finally, if you're after something a little more under the radar, we got Born Rooms, another very underrated survival horror game that deserves more attention than it's getting right now. Alright, moving on, we have simulation games, and this is probably one of the most diverse genres out there because everyone can have a completely different experience depending on what you enjoy. If you're into realistic vehicle simulations, War Thunder is one of the biggest free-to-play options out there, offering everything from tanks and aircrafts to naval combat. On the other side of the spectrum, we got games like Digital Combat Simulator World, takes everything even further with more realistic, more hardcore, detailed flight simulation experience available for totally free. And for people who enjoy more relaxing live simulation style of games, Pali offers a cozy open world experience focused on gathering, crafting, farming, and building relationships. And also we have very popular games like The Sims 4, still remain one of the most popular live simulation games where you can create your own sim and build your own stories. And if you're someone who enjoys fishing, we got great choices with games like Fishing Planet and Russian Fishing 4. Both offer realistic fishing experiences with different locations, equipments, and progression systems. But if you don't like this serious stuff and looking more of a fun, casual experience to jump in with your friends, we got Supermarket Together, a really fun co-op simulation game where you and your friends work together to manage and grow your own supermarket. But let's say if you're interested in more computer-based simulations or hacking style gameplay, the games like Bitburner and Upload Labs offer a unique experience built around programming, automation, and managing digital systems. Alright, moving on, next up we have co-op and party style games, which are perfect when you just want to jump in with your friends and have a good time. Alright, starting with a couple of popular games which are very similar to each other, and that is Fall Guys and Stumble Guys. These are very fun battle royale style obstacle courses that you can jump in with your friends. Gameplay wise, these are very similar, although Stumble Guys is a light option that you can actually run on a low-end PC. And for something a little more chaotic, we got One Armed Cook and One Armed Robber. Both are hilarious co-op games where things can go completely off the rail, and having another friend to play with you is absolutely must. And if you enjoy games like Among Us, these social deduction style games, Goose Goose Duck is another great free-to-play option with more features, more roles, more game modes, proximity voice chat, and also totally free. If you want something more casual to jump in with a squad of friends, we got games like Crab Game, which inspired from the popular TV show Squid Game, which is a really fun choice for some quick multiplayer rounds. And also one of the biggest additions recently was the Fortnite Save the World, which is now completely free to play and gives you a full PvE co-op campaign where you can jump in with 3 of your friends to fight off hordes of monsters, build defenses, and collect loot. And if you're after something more serious, we got Delta Force Black Hawk Down campaign, which is a very challenging 7-chapter co-op campaign based on the older Black Hawk Down campaign. You can technically play this one solo, but it's honestly incredibly difficult. You need to have another 3 of your friends with a full squad to jump in. So another great option if you got friends who love military style shooters. And Arcade Kitten is another fun co-op shooter that we already talked about. And also finally, we have Dochi Deliveries. It's another fun little co-op game where you and your friends run a delivery service while trying to survive this strange thing happening around the city. Alright, single player story games are probably one of the hardest things to find on the free-to-play market, especially if you're looking for something with an actual story and a proper adventure rather than, this endless online grind. But there are still some interesting options that is worth checking out, especially new releases like Darkenstein 3D, which is a really fun old-school first-person boomer shooter with a great story, fun gameplay, and about like 4 to 6 hour campaign that is totally free to download on Steam at the moment. And obviously we got some popular ones like Where Winsmeet, which we already talked about before. It offers much bigger open world experience with plenty of story and exploration. Persona 5 Phantom X bring that Persona formula into a free-to-play RPG. And also if you're into that anime aesthetic, we got games like Zenless Zone Zero and Reverse 99. Those 2 more story-focused options but with different settings and gameplay. Try Again is another fun puzzle platformer style of a game with a great story. And moving on to some absolute classics, we got games like Cry of Fear, which deliver that single-player psychological horror experience if you're into that style of games. And finally, we got the awesome adventure of Captain Spirit, which is a very short but a memorable narrative adventure from the developers of Life is Strange that is again completely free to play. Alright, MMORPGs are probably the one genre that I personally spend least time playing, so I'm definitely not going to pretend that I'm an MMO expert here. But if you're looking for some good free-to-play options in 2026, here are my recommendations. Starting with some of the obvious ones, very popular ones. Where Winsmeet is a game that we already talked about. The game literally gives you the option to play the game as an action RPG or an MMORPG depending on your playstyle. Guild Wars 2 still going very strong after all these years and remain one of the easiest MMOs to recommend if you want a massive open world with a plenty of content without having to pay up front. Albion Online takes more of a sandbox approach with a player-driven economy, crafting, gathering, PvP, and class built around gear that you use. And if you're a Star Wars fan, the Star Wars Old Republic is an obvious choice. And if you're into anime-style stuff, we got Tower of Fantasy, offer that anime-inspired open-world MMO experience with exploration, combat, and character collection. On the other hand, we got games like Fantasy Online 2 New Genesis, another solid option if you're looking for a fast-paced combat in a futuristic sci-fi setting. Alright, moving on to racing games, and unlike some of the other genres, we don't have a whole lot of new free-to-play releases here. Most of the good options have been around for a while, but they're still worth checking out depending on what kind of racing games that you enjoy. If you're looking for something closer to a proper racing simulator, Race Room Racing Experience is still one of the better free options out there with realistic handling, licensed cars, tracks, and years of content. And for something more casual, Asphalt Legends offers that arcade-style fast-paced racing with a huge variety of cars and events, while games like Drift Legends 2, it's all about drifting in style and tuning your cars. If you're looking for a casual co-op racing games to play with your friends in a party night, Disney Speedstorm is a very colorful kart racing style of a game featuring characters across different Disney and Pixar universe with plenty of multiplayer chaos, 4-player split-screen co-op that is well worth checking out. And for something more competitive, Trackmania is about mastering incredible fast tracks, improving your time, and competing against other players online. And if you happen to own a PlayStation, My First Gran Turismo is another completely free option. Give new players a small taste of Gran Turismo experience with different car selection, tracks, and events. Alright, moving on to sports game, we actually have a pretty solid new addition this year, especially if you're into football, and obviously popular games like eFootball and UFL are already very well established on the free-to-play market, but newer games like Strikers Club bring more arcade-style 5v5 football experience similar to games like Rematch. And if you happen to own a Potato PC, Goal is another fun football simulation game that can easily run on a low-end system. Alright, outside of football, we have games like eBaseball, Pro Spirit, and MLB Rivals, especially if you're into baseball, giving you a couple of free options depending on whether you prefer a more traditional baseball simulation or something more accessible. And if skateboarding is more of your thing, Skate is another major free-to-play addition from EA, offering an open-world skateboarding experience that you can jump in without paying up front. Alright guys, moving on to our final category, we got esports and competitive games. So if you're looking for a game with a huge competitive community and years of content behind, you simply can't go wrong with any of these popular choices. The games like Counter-Strike 2, Valorant, Dota 2, League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, or even games like Overwatch. These are very popular titles with millions of concurrent players. But if you're into more of a fighting style games and looking for something new to play, we gotta try out Riot's brand new free-to-play release, which is 2XKO, bringing that League of Legends universe into a fighting game genre, totally free on PC and also available on consoles. At the same time, if you're looking for something easy to run, something lightweight, we got Brawlhalla, still remain one of the best competitive fighting games years after, especially since the game available across multiple platforms. And our final game, we have the ever popular Rocket League, still one of the easiest competitive games to pick up and play, combining football with rocket power cars, but it does have a high skill ceiling. And that's pretty much it for this ultimate guide to find some of the best free-to-play PC games to play right now in 2026. And this one took a lot of time and effort to put together. It's almost like 20 minutes. So if you enjoyed the video guys, dropping a like and subscribe to the channel would be massively appreciated. And if I missed any great free-to-play games that you guys are playing that I forgot to mention, definitely drop it down in the comment section. I always check them out and they might even make it into a future video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.